Parliament to revisit the issue. Thank you.
I call the Honourable Member Denise Roach. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, Mr Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this supplementary order paper. I'm very keen to see this supplementary order paper go through and to see this amendment take place to this bill. I'm not going to get into any discussion about the name, what the name of the bill should be, because I haven't really given it much consideration. My mind has really been focused on the Charities Commission and how the supplementary order paper would assist the community and voluntary sector come to terms with what the government's desire is to see their shift into the Department of Internal Affairs. When the Charities Commission was first introduced under the Charities Act, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, there was quite a bit of resistance, I have to say, in the community and voluntary sector, and a bit of distrust as well. It took them some time to understand the merit and the worth of the commission that was set up. And the role of the commission was very widely debated, and it took some time for community and voluntary organisations to get themselves into a position where they registered with the commission. But over time, the reputation of the commission has really settled in and they've proven their worth to the sector. What's happened is that more and more charities and community organisations have registered until, actually I think currently it's 28,000 have done so, and that has meant that a monitoring and compliance regime has been set up. Now, it took time. It took quite a bit of time for the sector to bed in to these changes. This supplementary order paper is asking for time for this sector to come to terms with the changes that the government wants to push through. I also support this supplementary order paper, this amendment, because it is an elegant solution to those feelings that are felt very deeply in the community and voluntary sector. You're welcome, Trevor.
Order.
Sorry.
No, what you must do, you must use the member's full name or his title.
Oh. Sorry, Mr Trevor Mallard. Honourable Trevor Mallard. I've lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. The reason why it's quite a big issue and an important issue to defer this for 3 years is not only about allowing time for transition, but also allowing time for reviews. It doesn't strike me as terribly cost effective or even sane, quite frankly, to hold a review of the Charities Act after you've changed it, after you've changed what happened and what was intended through the Charities Act when it was first set up, when the Charities Commission was set up. So it doesn't strike me as a very good idea to have reviews after you've changed what was supposed to be reviewed. And there are 2 reviews that are supposed to happen. One's the Incorporated Societies Act, is currently up for review, and the other is the Charities Act, which is the legislation that set up the Charities Commission in the first place and set up the roles of the Charities Commission. They need to be reviewed as well in 2015. But because of the Incorporated Societies Act, there's already a bit of discussion about what the terms of reference will be. Those terms of reference and that review, the community and voluntary sector is hoping will also incorporate the future needs of what the sector will require in the future. So if we sort of stop now and say, right, we're going to change everything and put it into the Department of Internal Affairs, what that does is it says we're not going to look at the future at this time. It's a clear signal to the charities sector, to the community and voluntary sector, that there is a lack of caring about their future needs for building the capacity of their sector. In these times of austerity as well, and we've got the zero budget coming up tomorrow, we're also looking, and a responsible government will be looking at making savings. Now, we know that there are no savings that are associated with this move to include this. Mr. Chairman?
I call the honourable member Denise Roach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are no cost savings associated with transferring the Charities Commission to live within, with a different board arrangement within the Department of Internal Affairs, and that's been fairly well canvassed and it's fairly widely known. There are, however, costs associated with that. And if we're looking at responsible government, if we're looking at we're looking at good financial governance, then we should be looking at making changes that actually have an impact, that do make savings, that are more effective, that do make the community and voluntary sector act more effectively as well. There's also this concern about the independence of the Charities Commission once it is submerged into the Department of Internal Affairs. Now, whether or not that happens, and from where I sit, that is certainly one of the concerns that's being voiced, and it's also one of the fears that I have. However, we're hearing from the government side that they believe this will not happen, and we're hearing that that they think that there are measures in place to prevent that. But perception is everything. And once you start to interfere with the independence of an organisation like this, you do start to make it less effective. So leaving it aside for 3 years means that there are ways that we can test whether that would actually happen. There is the time to test different models for the Charities Commission to act. So that we can see whether that would in fact work and whether it would meet the needs of the charities, community and voluntary sector. I guess I would just finish up by saying that the Greens will be supporting this amendment because we think that this is what's in the best interests for the community and voluntary sector. We think this will deliver better and more transparent compliance and monitoring within the charities and community and voluntary sector. And we would really ask for the support of the members over there for this supplementary order paper. Thank you.
I call the